Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in for this live internet study, episode number 235. My name is Arben Lyman Hanavi. As you can see on my screen, normally what we would be engaged in would be the eschatology study, eschatology, a biblical study of end-time events. But as I already mentioned 2 weeks ago, before we took our break for Rosh Hashanah, we're going to do a special study tonight. I've got no name. I don't have any name for the study. It's just basically going to be talking about the Jewish feasts of the fall feasts that are on the calendar. I say Jewish, but really they're God's feasts, but he loaned them out to the Jewish people, to Israel. But the fall feasts and their significance for end time events, particularly the significance of how the end times, fall feasts and the end times kind of overlap with one another, or parallel, meaning it's really no secret, and every Bible student should be aware of it, although it's a shame that many aren't, that the festivals that are mentioned in Leviticus chapter 23, they outline the kind of the roadmap of Messiah Yeshua's comings here on planet Earth. The two major comings. The first coming, when he was born in Bethlehem as a baby, came into the world through his earthly parents, and then walked and talked and performed all of his ministry here on planet Earth. That was all the first coming, and then his death on the cross, his burial, his resurrection, and his ascension all are detailed and paralleled and outlined and demonstrated by the first four feasts in Leviticus chapter 23. So there's a one-to-one correspondence, and I'll put a little graphic on the screen in post-production that shows this. But every Christian should be aware of this, right? Jesus is the Passover lamb. He was the unleavened bread that was put into the earth, the bread without sin. He was the first fruit that was raised from the dead, right? The resurrection of those who would never die again once they've been resurrected. He was the first one to experience that, and then he ascended on high to sit at the right hand of the Father. And then when he sent his Holy Spirit, i.e. the Holy Spirit of God, was sent at 50 days later on Shavuot at Pentecost, well, then that closed out the fall feasts, as it were. I'm sorry, the spring feasts. So there's a correspondence there that I think most people are aware of, but some people just don't put more special emphasis on it. To be sure, Israel's still in the dark. They haven't figured it out, right? Rabbinic Judaism has blinded the minds of Jewish people the world over into thinking that these are just all kind of agricultural feasts and they're special to Israel, but they're not really special to anyone else, or really don't bear any real significance when it comes to pointing out who Messiah is and what he's going to be doing and when. But now we've got the fall feasts, right? And we're right in the middle of these fall feasts. And yet the themes are still there. The Messianic themes of Yeshua returning to his people, pouring out national atonement for national Israel, right, at Yom Kippur, and then drawing all the world into one giant Sukkot celebration where we celebrate together and usher in the millennial kingdom and things like that. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So without further ado, what I want to do is I want to borrow two main resources. The first resource is my own. It's from my own study. I'm just turned to it here on my own website. Let's see. It's from, you can see on my screen, it's from the Holy Convocation series. And I've got videos available. The Feasts of ADONAI, or dress rehearsals of Messianic Redemption. I recommend that you watch that video. You can go straight to my website at www.tatesatorah.com and then click on the Holy Convocations link at the top of the screen. Or if the pop-up shows up, because we're in the middle of the fall feast, then follow the links for the Holy Convocations there. Question: should we celebrate the Jewish feasts as Christians? The answer, short answer, if you don't want to watch the video, the answer is yes. So I've got a study here. It's the introduction and overview to the festivals, and I'm going to read this study, just the part one. It's only like a short half page when I wrote it in Word format. So I'm going to read that, and then the second resource also by way of my own resources. Again, you can go to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Tetzei Torah Ministries /C. YouTube channel /C/Tetzei Torah Ministries. I believe that's the YouTube channel URL. Or just do a Google search for me or YouTube search for my name, Ariel Hanavi, or Tetzei Torah Ministries. You'll find it that way. And I have one of my playlists, the Feasts of the Lord, the Mikra'e Kodesh series. You can see all the thumbnails are blue. And you can watch the festivals there. And I made made video recordings of what I'm going to read, like part 1. I made that. That's right there. They can see. You can watch the first one on the top of the screen. Let me blow it up for you. That one right there. So you can watch that if you get a chance. There we go. You can watch that if you get a chance. I highly recommend it. And then the third, the second resource that we're going to be looking at is, you remember I've been using this book called The Sign by Christian author Robert Van Kampen, who passed away just before 2020. I'm sorry, just before 2000, so it was 1999, somewhere in 1998. But he wrote a book called The Sign of Christ's Coming and the End of the Age. And in this book, which you can see on my screen is available from Amazon.com. In this book, he has a chapter, let me turn to it, called End Times and 3 Jewish Feasts. And I've got this book that I'm reading from an online archive resource that I'm subscribed to. And I'm just going to read this particular excerpt from this particular chapter of his book. And so that'll finish out the study tonight. So without further ado, it's just going to be a lot of reading tonight. I won't try to elaborate. I'll resist that. This way you can get the maximized amount of teaching just from hearing all the material, because I'm not going to carry this over into the next week. Next week, we're on break again. In fact, let me pull up my calendar and just make you guys aware. So today is the 23rd for those of you in the West. It is the 24th for me on my side of the world over here in the East. I think I got those backwards. Well, in Asia, it's the 24th, but in the Americas, it's still the 23rd. And Yom Kippur is fast approaching. Sunday night is when Yom Kippur starts. And so if you notice on the calendar, Sukkot will be upon us on the 30th of September. So no study that night. And then if you keep looking at the calendar, you'll notice that Shmini Atzeret, which is the 8th day of assembly for Sukkot, otherwise known as Simchat Torah, returning the joy of the Torah. Shmini Atzeret is the 8th day of assembly, and I will not hold study then as well. So no meeting on the 30th, no live study on the 7th as well. We will not return for the live study until the 14th of October. So since today is the 23rd, for most of you listening to this recording, and for those of you with me in the live study, I'm sorry. Since today's the 23rd, since we are having study, then there won't be a study 2 weeks following. So the study that I'm going to do tonight is going to have to carry over for those 2 weeks. Okay, so let's jump into the study. I'm just going to do a lot of heavy reading. It's self-explanatory. And so let's start with this quote from Luke 24:44 from the Complete Jewish Bible, David Stern's version. Yeshua said to them, "This is what I meant when I was still alive with you and told you that everything written about me in the Torah of Moshe, the prophets, and the Psalms had to be fulfilled." All right, now let's just jump right into this commentary that I wrote some time ago. Here's what I had to say. Next to Isaiah 53, nowhere else is this statement of Yeshua's more vividly demonstrated than in the holy convocations of Leviticus chapter 23, is what I say. The opening few lines of this chapter clearly teach that the biblical feasts, including, and now I'm going to name off all the feasts, an overview of the feasts: Pesach, which is Passover, to Sukkot, which is Tabernacles, meaning the bookmarks, right? Passover is the first, and Tabernacles is the last. And I say that they are, quote-unquote, designated times of Adonai, verse 4 below, that we're going to see here. And so God himself tells Israel, these are my feasts. Do I want to read that? Sure, yeah, I'll read it this time. This is Leviticus. Let me scroll down and read. This is Leviticus 23, 1 through 4. So we've got the Hebrew up here. And then I've got the English down below. Vayideber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Israel va'amarta aleichem mo-eydeem Adonai asher tikra'u otam mikra'e kodesh aleichem mo-eydeem. And then this next verse here. Sheshet yamim te'aseh malacha uv'yom hashvi'i Shabbat Shabbaton Mikra Kodesh Kol Malacha Lo Ta'asu Shabbat Hi Ladonai B'chol Moshvotechem. And then the final pasuk, verse 4, I believe, Ele Moadei Adonai Mikra E Kodesh Asher Tikra'u Otam B'moadam. And so the translation of those of that passage that I just read from the Hebrew, going back into English using David Stern's version, verse 1, Adonai said to Moshe, verse 2, tell the people of Israel the designated times of Adonai which you are to proclaim as holy convocations are my designated times. Again, these are feasts of the Lord. Israel is just borrowing them. So they're not Jewish feasts. Get that out of your head. Which means if you name the name of Adonai as your Lord, then these feasts are for you too, right? They are for all who name the name of Adonai, the name of the Lord. This does include national Israel, obviously, because God spoke to them when these words were recorded. But they now extend to Gentiles who have been brought into the family of God via their genuine faith in Messiah Yeshua. Thus, Gentile Christians who are grafted into Israel also have full access and privilege to keeping these feasts. These are not Jewish-only feasts. They do not belong to the people of Israel only. The Torah is not a Jewish-only document. Verse 3, Moshe is told from God, work is to be done on 6 days, but the seventh day is a Shabbat of complete rest, a holy convocation. You are not to do any kind of work. It is a Shabbat for Adonai, even in your homes. And then verse 4, these are the designated times of Adonai, the holy convocations you are to proclaim at their designated times.